What's going on, guys? It's Russell again. In this video I'm going to show you exactly how I made 40 or 50% overnight using the TTM squeeze indicator on a low float, very low cost stock. So if you want to see exactly how I did that, keep watching. If you've not been to this channel before, make sure you subscribe. I do a ton of stock alerts videos all about these different services and how, they basically test and work out if they're scams, if they're, really good, like all the details about them. So I join them so you don't have to, and then I test them out and publish reviews both on my blogs and on this channel. So make sure you subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And let's get started on this video. So last year I was introduced to a concept called the TTM squeeze. I'd heard about it over the years. I've been trading for a while now, but I had never used it because I've not really been a huge fan of a lot of indicators. Usually just prefer to use momentum, price action, and volume. But I've started to use the TTM squeeze and I found it to be pretty useful. So the TTM squeeze was introduced by a guy called John F. Carter, and it's like this weird mixture of different indicators. So it's like a mixture of the Bollinger Bands, the Keltner channels, and then the momentum oscillator all combined. So it's pretty cool. It works pretty well for me. Some people love it, some people hate it. I'll show you it in action in a few minutes. So yeah, so it's a lagging indicator like all of these indicators. So you have to take it with a pinch of salt and you have to try and combine stuff to really get a clear picture to maximize your chance of actually making a good trade. So I use Thinkorswim for the TTM squeeze, and I'll leave a link to my exact settings so you can just download them and you can produce this beautiful, colorful TTM squeeze plot down the bottom here. So make sure you look in the description below for that, and let's get started on this example trade. So here we go. So this was the trade yesterday. 555 bucks overnight, not a huge win, but it was a tiny position. I think I had about $1,400 in it, so it's a significant percentage win. I was actually up 80% at one point, but I didn't take my profits because, that's what always happens. So let me just go into it a little bit more and I'll explain the TTM indicator as we go. So we set this on the 1 hour time frame. Let's see, sorry, that's the 1 minute. Let's put the 1 hour on here. So this is EEGI. And here I'm looking at the TTM indicator down the bottom. So we scan in. So there was two things that drew my attention to the trade EEGI yesterday. So that was on Tuesday. So this day, and then a little bit. So basically, the first thing was that it actually came up on Jeff Williams' radar. So I follow Jeff Williams from Raven Bull, and he was noticing that it had a bit more volume than normal. So you can see these are sort of the volume bars that started to get this nice big volume here. I think it had news of some sort, and it was looking like it on the 1 hour chart that it was consolidating nicely. So that was a positive sign. But when you switch to the 5 minute here, so we combine that 1 hour chart with the 5 minute chart here. So this was yesterday, this day here. You can see that the day before it had done the same thing. It gapped up, consolidated the whole day, and then yesterday gapped up. And then Jeff noticed the higher highs, higher lows as the day came to an end up here. So that was kind of on his radar. It was trending above the VWAP for most of the day, all of the day. So another positive sign. But then for me, I also looked at the TTM squeeze. So let's talk a little bit about that before we go into the actual trade. So the idea with the TTM squeeze is you can see it down the bottom here. Let's go to Apple actually to give you a better view of a TTM squeeze. It's way more liquid. It just looks a lot better. So here's Apple. What you're looking at down here is these awesome colored bars. So these red, yellow, cyan, and blue. So if you look at here, for example, so we'll zoom in, we're still on the 5 minute chart. What you're looking for here, so I'll try and explain this as clearly as possible. You see these red dots here and then the green dots. So we're just looking at the dots at the moment. The red dots indicate that we're in a period of consolidation. So you can look up here and the price also confirms that, kind of just going sideways. So with the TTM squeeze, these cyan and blue and then red and yellow, is momentum oscillator, so it can give you an idea of what the momentum is likely to do, what it's doing, and what it's likely to do going forward. So if you take this for example, when these bars are increasingly red like this, the momentum oscillator is saying momentum is to the downside. So you have this below the line and it's going red. And you can see here that's exactly what the price did. So if you'd bought on these first few red bars here, then you would have had a nice ride down for a short, for example, or some puts. Now, the key here is it's slightly lagging, like all these indicators are, but you can buy on these first like green dots that's saying a squeeze is firing. So the squeeze is setting up on the red and it's firing when the green starts. So if you buy on the first couple of green dots here, then if the squeeze works out, and it doesn't work out every single time, I'll try and show you as much as I can here so you can see how often this worked out and when it doesn't. So what you have here is a combination, right? So you've got the VWAP breaking down. So this line is the VWAP. So you have the candle starting to break down through the VWAP and this downside squeeze starting. So it's a fairly obvious short here that would just ride down. And it's exactly what happened. And then as the bars turn yellow, that indicates that the momentum to the downside is decreasing. So you can see that at least there was a temporary decrease in downwards momentum as we started to rise back up. But then it continued down. So you can't just, it's not an infallible thing or we'd all be billionaires, right? So you have to kind of use it in conjunction with something like the VWAP or classic support and resistance. And even then, there's no guarantee, right? It's trading. So that's an indicator, well, an example of the squeeze indicator firing to the downside. But if you look at the, say back here, let's find a good one. I mean, I guess this isn't a great one, but you can see another downside one here. This one here, for example, we had this red couple of dots, which is not a long squeeze setup, and then we turned to the green dots here, and you can see the momentum. So the momentum started to go up here, and then it continued up until we started to fade off on these blue bars. So a typical trade here would be buy on these first firing, dots for the squeeze, and then try and hold this and try and time your exit. So when it got rejected off this line of resistance up here, you would, probably cut the trade for a win here. So not 100% reliable, but it's a pretty good indicator, and it works on different time frames, so you can kind of just look through and check the different time frames. Let's have a look, different area, let's look here. So you can see here again, you've got the squeeze firing. So it works best when you don't have a period of consolidation according to the momentum here. You do according to the chart, right? But according to the momentum indicator, you don't. It tends to work best when you have a long period of red dots, which is the consolidation, and then the squeeze fires, and we had a nice long period of uptrending. So yeah, so that's the basics. Let me give you an example of how I did this trade yesterday, EEGI. So I talked a little bit about the chart and what Jeff Williams saw on it, so I'll just briefly recap that again. So here's the 15-minute. We had these higher highs, higher lows, above the VWAP, so pretty bullish. We had news in the morning, bunch of volume came in. The pattern had repeated itself the day before. So basically, here is where we bought in for a overnight trade, so end of day here, just as the squeeze was starting to fire on the 15-minute chart, so about here. And sure enough, like the next day, so overnight, we started to gap up, and the squeeze continued to remain green, firing off with these cyan bars, which show like the momentum increasing. And it went all the way up to, I think, double basically, so 0.026. Yeah, doubled. So that was pretty amazing. It's like what you want to see overnight, right? Of course, I didn't sell there. I actually waited way too long and sold down here somewhere. But still a fantastic trade. We can't time the tops and the bottoms exactly. It did fade for the rest of the day. And you can see here for on the 15-minute, you're starting to get this downside momentum. So basically, it's a momentum oscillator, and it works pretty well, especially if you use things like lines of resistance and support, and if you use simple chart setups as well. So pretty much the ideal trade for me. The only thing was it was very low volume, and it's an OTC stock, so it wasn't the most liquid of trades. But I had 1 million shares, which is $1,400 worth, so not very much at all. I wish it had a full position. I usually use about 10,000, so that would have been 10 million shares. This could have been a nice quick $5,000. So, but with the market being the way it is, there's no way I'm going into these super volatile stocks long, given the volatility and just the ridiculous conditions. So, anyway, I hope that was helpful. I'll leave a link to my TTM squeeze setup below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks again.